Hello, I'm Richard Emmett, the Program Director of the Blue Ridge Music Center, and I'd like to welcome you to our discussion series, Deep Roots, Many Voices. This series is part of a project by the Blue Ridge Music Center exploring diversity and inclusion in roots-based music. In this discussion series, we pair two musicians in each episode to talk about issues related to race, ethnicity, and sexual orientation, how these issues have been part of their personal stories, and the importance of celebrating diversity in the music world. These discussions highlight contributions to American roots-based music from the many voices that make up our nation and give us hope for a rich and diverse musical future. The series was coordinated and conceived by Blue Ridge Music Center Associate Director Marianne Kovatch, who also moderates these discussions. I hope you enjoy the series. Thank you for joining us. And now here's Marianne to introduce you to our guests.
Hello and welcome to Deep Roots, Many Voices. I'm Marianne Kovac, the Associate Program Director for the Blue Ridge Music Center. Today I'm speaking with Pura Fé and Charly Lowry. Currently living in northern Saskatchewan, Pura Fé grew up in New York City. Her mother was a Tuscaroran and father was Taino, giving her roots in both North Carolina and Puerto Rico. As an Indigenous activist, singer-songwriter, and storyteller, Pura Fé has been singing professionally for many years. She started out as a child actor, dancer, and singer. Her musical career has included many genres, including jazz, blues, and much, much more. She's a founding member of the internationally renowned Native women's a cappella trio, Ulali, and is recognized for creating a new genre, bringing Native contemporary music to the forefront of the mainstream music industry. Charly Lowry is a member of the Lumbee tribe from Robeson County in North Carolina. She first hit the big stage as a contestant in Season 3 of American Idol and has continued making music ever since. Charly is the lead singer of the band Darkwater Rising. As an all-Indigenous band, members come from the Lumbee and Coharie tribes of North Carolina. Charly also sings and plays the hand drum with Ulali, the group started by Pura Fé. In this conversation, Charly and Pura Fé talk about their songwriting and performing experiences as Indigenous artists, playing both Native American-inspired music as well as music that fits the jazz, funk, blues, rock, and Americana genres. Here they are, Pura Fé and Charly Lowry.
Brothers and sisters, idle no more. Together, brothers and sisters, idle no more.
My name is Charly Lowry. I am a musician, entertainer from Pembroke, North Carolina, in Robeson County. And I am a member of, an Indigenous woman belonging to the Lumbee and Tuscarora people in this part of the state. And born and raised here, currently live here, still call this home. And I've been a professional musician since about 2008. And so I sing, I'm a songwriter, play guitar and the hand drum as well. And my music is a blend of rock, soul, blues, folk. It's got some gospel influence as well. And I have written hip hop and R&B songs in the past. So I come from a wide variety of genres of music. I'm just happy to be here with my mentor.
Well, it's good to see you.
Friend. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, well, my name's Pura Fé. Pura Fé Antonia Crescione, and I was born and raised in New York City. And my mother's family, they're from North Carolina. They're from Sampson County. And my father's people are from Puerto Rico. And but I was raised with my mom's people and my mom's family. My grandparents moved up north and they raised 7 daughters. And out of that came all these grandchildren, and I'm the oldest one. And so within that family, we have all these singers. And so we always like to say that we count 8 generations of women singers and through our maternal line. And even Grandpa's line, his line is, we're related to Thelonious Monk and several other musicians. And so music is my life. I was raised in music in New York City, and I was raised in show business as well. And I've been singing all my life and did a lot of, recordings and Broadway shows and jingles, and I've done a lot of all kinds of stuff, and I've traveled all over the world. But it wasn't until later in my years that I met Sonny, and so the two of us, through the American Indian Community House in New York City, we ended up forming a group that became Ulali, and that brought me everywhere, and it even brought me home to North Carolina. And so I started working with communities, especially in Robeson County. So I moved there, and that's where I met Charly. And so a lot of that hand drum music that you see today that women are doing is influenced by Ulali. Not that nobody didn't do that before, but it really took its center stage after we started singing, and we went into mainstream music as well and worked with a lot of different artists. And so we built lots of bridges, and so that's good enough, And I play slide guitar and travel Europe as well, and have recordings with a regular, like a band, which since COVID is really nothing has happened in that way. But anyhow, that's enough. Blah, blah, blah.
Do you feel like it's that your identity as a Native American or an Indigenous person has affected your music in any way, even when you're playing more popular music, both in songwriting and song choices and the way you presented things?
Yeah. Go
Go
ahead,
for it.
Pray. Go ahead.
Well, totally. Because for me, with all of that stuff I just talked about, the one thing that was always that thread that was inside me was that. And so no matter how much I did in the city or wherever I was or whatever I loved and listened to, and I was always putting on different hats because I could identify with so many things, and I am very mixed. But the thing that really kept me centered was my purpose. And my purpose was very much wrapped up into my indigenous lineage, both my mother and father, from being the Caribbean Indians and North Carolina. So, yeah, because of everything that was going on in terms of environmentally and every way you can imagine. And I was always aware of what all Indigenous people of the world what they were up against. I knew that at a very early age. And so that was very important to me. And so when it came time to like really write, and I'd say Buffy had a lot to do with that. And so that influenced me. And so I really wrote a lot of very hardcore, heartfelt, what some people would call protest songs, but I don't call them protest songs. They're just songs of my people and my family. And, so yeah, that's enough of an answer.
Well, when you first started talking, it made me think about how when I did actually start culture classes and learning those songs, it's like I always carried them with me. My family, I would say, live a more assimilated lifestyle, even though I grew up very close to Mother Earth and being outside. And I got a lot of that from both of my parents because they worked the land so much, and my mother loved the outdoors. But like I said, I only really went to powwows with my grandfather maybe once a year. And other than that, we listened to more secular music all around with my parents. But when I started going to culture classes and learning those songs, it was really instrumental in me developing my identity and carrying it forward as a Native woman. And then once I went to college away from home in Chapel Hill, that was another life-changing time for me. Even though it was only 90 minutes from home, a lot of my peers didn't know, who we were as a people, that natives existed in North Carolina, especially students from out of state. They weren't familiar with the history of our people. And then when I began writing my own songs, I found myself writing songs about identity and sharing the identity of our people and the different stories and plights of our tribal communities. I got a song that I wrote called Brown Skin that, it's written to empower women no matter where they go or, and at the time when I wrote it, I was thinking about our young girls at home. I vividly remember thinking about them and worrying about them finding a place. And I've come to realize that brown skin was me. It is me. I had that experience.
An existence so beautiful, so colorful, deep-rooted in originality. Eye candy of shallow minds, that was her reality still. She walks around with a smile for the whole wide world to see. Inside's a screaming, free yourself from strains of society. Brown skin, why do you hide the pain within?
And so now, whenever I find a lot of my songs are heavily influenced by my identity and the communities that I live in, personal stories of maybe people who have passed away that I knew personally within our community, and just sharing characteristics about them in the song. I've got a song called Backbone that, I know the veins, the foundations are about our Indigenous communities and our resiliency as a people, even though the song relates to all people and all of humanity, to just, find the backbone within us and remember that we all possess it, but it's rooted within my identity as an Indigenous woman. It's embedded in there, and it does come out through my music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that also puts me in mind, like when I started working with the girls, you know, first I was working with a jazz band, and I was called by I forgot his name, but it was in some reserve somewhere, and they wanted us to open for American Indian Dancer, and they were brand spanking new, and Joy Harjo. And at that time, no one had ever brought bands to a powwow or anything like that. That had not happened yet. We started that kind of thing, but so I didn't want to bring the band. So that's when Sonny and I said, she was singing backup for me with the band at that time. And so I said, how about if we just take our songs down to a hand drum or some drums? I said, just like they do at 49. So it's like half English and half vocals. I said, we could take those songs from the band and do that. He said, that's a great idea. So that's how we started. But when we first started, people made fun of us. They were like, like, oh my God, like, listen to what do they think they're going to like make it, like doing that kind of stuff? Even my own family made fun of what we were doing. And it went okay. And then we started getting called by, like Indigo Girls, Robbie Robertson, the list goes on. So we were doing all these collaborations. But to me, our roots, what saved us. The roots is what, that part of our being, that part of our music is what made a large, footprints. And we made a genre. And yeah. So yeah.
That makes me think about Dark Water Rising too. Our start, once I kind of got away from singing to cassette tapes and instrumentals, I competed on American Idol, and whenever I came back from American Idol, that's when I was in college. I was set on beginning my independent career and was approached by a longtime friend of mine who had musical experience from high school band playing the quints. And his name's Aaron Locklear, and he's from one of our tribal communities as well. But he also had a foundation in church, and used his keyboard to make beats in the hip hop realm and R&B production. And we started working together, didn't really have any folks around us, any musicians in our communities that were doing the same thing, or, kind of any map to look at. And so we started forging our own way and trying to figure it out as independent musicians. And then a couple of years after, working together as a duo, we decided that we wanted a live sound from a band. And so we picked up instruments. Aaron got a full drum kit, and then I decided to get a guitar and work on it. And then we asked 4 of our other friends who mostly had experience singing and playing in church growing up, but never really any rock or country music or blues music. And so we were an all native band, Lumbee, Tuscarora, and Coharie tribes coming together. And our identity played a huge part in the music that we were creating. And so we named our band Dark Water Rising after the river that runs through our territory, the Lumbee River. And it's a black water river. because our people are known as the people of the dark waters. And so that right there was a huge influence on, you know, the path that we took as musicians at the beginning of our career. So, yeah, that identity is woven all throughout.
Yeah.
How were things on stage and just in general, being a part of the music community, a performing music community, with diversity on stage in general and specifically being a Native American? Did you get any pushback from that? Was there good and bad from the audience and other performers? And how have you seen things changing over the years?
Well, I'll start just in thinking about Darkwater Rising, because we played more of a contemporary style of music with traditional elements in it. Sometimes people didn't really know how to take us or what to expect. And our name threw them off. Upon seeing our name, they thought we might have been a rock and roll band or a heavy metal band. And then we were fronted by 3 females, myself and 2 of my other sisters. And it just took people didn't know how to take us, but then when we came with messages of love and hope and just messages that all of humanity can relate to, I think people enjoyed it. And, you know, we had some people that were when they found out we were an all-native band, they were expecting the drum or flutes maybe. And we did incorporate some elements into our shows. I usually always played brown skin with the hand drum. But, you know, it's like when people read your bio or see your picture and find out you're Native, they expect a certain thing out of you. And so it was always nice to catch them by surprise and, you know, also include elements of who we were as tribal people, as Indigenous people.
I can relate to all of that. And traveling with the girls, Sunny and Jen, we would walk into theaters or wherever, festivals, and we walk in with our 3 little drums. And then usually they would treat us not well, or the soundmen. And as soon as we would start, we just ripped their head off. They just would not, they couldn't believe the amount of sound that came out of 3 young women at that time. We were young and we were strong. We won a lot of respect everywhere we went. I have to say, we sure did do that. And wherever we went, and it's because they were not expecting. I'd say we changed the face of Native music, Native women's music. We definitely gave it a. So we didn't. I mean, if we ever had like adversity, it was mostly not when we were playing music. It was more like when we were traveling and crossing borders, things like that. And we did definitely have a lot of, not a lot, but now and then we would run into some very racist situations upon traveling and crossing borders and stuff. So, and we did end up doing a lot of work throughout Indian country. So we, you know, it wasn't just traveling overseas and doing festivals and stuff. It's like through the years since we started, we saw a Native music industry build. And, you know, it's changed so much. It was just like, it was none. And when we stepped in, you know, it was just like we were one of the pioneers, along with Buffy and Floyd Westerman and Keith Secola and some of the other groups, we were the ones that, and they were before us, and then we came in, and then there were more that came in, and then more, and then just the networking across the borders, and including and it just kept adding. It wasn't just music anymore. It became film and fashion, and it was just like a huge smorgasbord. Now when you go to some festivals and powwows, there's all this stuff going on, and so it's really grown. It's with its own amazing network of artists and people and poets, and I mean, it's big. So yeah,
I just still wanted to add that I still feel like we're hugely underrepresented on a lot of bills, a lot of show bills, considering that there are Native artists, up and coming and on the rise and putting themselves out there. We're still underrepresented. A lot of times, I'll find that we're the only natives on a show bill, on a festival lineup, or, some festivals that are traditionally white. It's rare to find any inclusivity of Indigenous peoples along the way.
That's true.
Yeah.
Sonny always complained, tried to get us into the Lilith Fair, and she wanted to be a part of that so bad, and she got so angry she was calling it the Lily White Tour. So we never got on that bill. Maybe one day, but that's okay. Jonelle Romero has got, her women's festival, her Indigenous Women's Festival. But the thing is you want to be a part of everything, right? You want to see a nice balance of just music and musicians and so forth. And I think, the one thing that I preached all these years was because of when I went to see Jim Pepper. My girlfriend took me to see Jim Pepper, and he was a well-known jazz. He was Creek and Kaw, and his family's from Oklahoma. He was born in Portland, Oregon. He was an amazing saxophone player, and he toured Europe a lot. And I went to see him, and he talked about how, I was 17 at the time, he talked about stomp dance music, coming out of the South, and the influences and so forth. And so I went home and asked my grandma all these questions, and she didn't know the answers to them really, but I felt to ask her. And I started to really study and listen to the different music from out of different nations and territories and areas and languages and everything. But I did it by going to the places because we worked everywhere. And I asked lots of questions too. And so I was always bothering elders. But anyway, we and then later on I would make Jennifer do it because I didn't have the nerve anymore. I was too old. Go ask him this. Anyway, so I learned about stomp dance music and started going to stomp dances and so forth. And you hear it, and you're hearing blues. You're hearing blues music. And so one kid asked me when I went to Chapel Hill in Will Ferris' class, I was talking about how stomp dance music, a lot of music from the Southeast, from Native people, is a major ingredient in what became blues. And this kid asked me, are there recordings before blues? I said, oh yeah, there's lots of field recordings, and people listen to it and they think they're listening to African music, and they're listening to completely full-bloods that are maybe Choctaw or whatever from Oklahoma, and this is stomp dance music and throughout the whole Southeast and all the way up East Coast and all the way through the whole eastern side is like this type of music with that round dance beat, which is that boom, 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 and that call and response and that pentatonic scale. And for that many tribes all having that kind of a sound tells you that this is their thing, this is their music, and you hear it so present in blues, and you hear it in, you know, so many genres that we really had a hand in sculpting or birthing, um, um, you know, American music. And nobody, you know, we never get included in anything, you know. So it's like, it's so, when that movie Rumble came, when they started asking me questions, and they got a hold of me through Will Ferris and John Troutman, through the Southeastern Association. So they reached me, and this has been my baby for so long, just ranting and raving about this. I feel like a broken record at this point. But when I finally got to France, oh, they ate it up. They just loved this stuff. So it's a long, slow process trying to chip away and get your flag in your own ground, you know, so people can see, you know, the contributions of Native music, along with medicine and democracy and all those things. And music is just as as much, you know, as all those other things. So, you know, it's very hard for me when they say, "Oh, so I see you're influenced by blues." I'm like, "No, I'm influenced by Native music." So it's like, how do you take people back through that whole, you know, that's a lot, you know. So it was really great to have the movie Rumble, but I want more. I want them to do more. I want us to do more. And yeah. So, and not only that, you know, when you know, I always thought my family was really special in the way they sang. And when I went home to North Carolina, like the first time, and I started hearing all these people singing in these different families, and you go to the church, and I'm like, oh, I get it now. This is like, this is who we are, you know, this is us. This is the way we sound, and this is old.
And I think even us as Native people, we tend to take it for granted ourselves. Because it's, you know, like she said, there's so many people that have that talent and that gift of song and music in our communities, just generations of children that can just pick up an instrument and start playing. And like I'm really, you know, I can vividly just still hear my mother's beautiful voice, like standing beside her in church singing. And just the fact that she could sing in tune and how beautiful it was. And then I have images and can remember my father just shuffling across our hardwood floor, singing some Otis Redding with so much soul, just a beautiful voice. And then even recently here going to a Chris Stapleton concert, like I knew my brother could sing, but going to the Chris Stapleton concert with him in Raleigh, and hearing him sing every nuance, just like Chris Stapleton, with the same soul and same timbre in his voice and tone. And I just got so mad at him, at my brother. I'm like, why have you been hiding this all these years? And it's like, I'm really the one in the family that's out in the public with it, but there's so many gifted people here within our communities. And I really didn't realize it until like Pura Fé kind of set a light bulb off in my head. She was like, y'all are some of the singingest people in the whole world. And just to hear that coming from her as someone who has traveled the world and has made a living doing it, one of the best in the world in our lifetimes, in my opinion. And just to hear her say that, like, the talent, the pool of talent is there, and it's something in our waters. It's just, you know, it's something to be very proud of, and something that we do need to highlight more of.
Yeah.
So, who's been playing today that is inspiring you? Either like someone who's been around for a long time that really you find inspirational, or some young up and coming musicians who you think are really carrying the torch forward and really bringing, kind of bringing indigenous music as well as indigenous influences into the music in a great way.
I've been, I haven't really studied a lot of their music, but I've been watching their climb just through social media, and I found out they're coming to North Carolina. It's a duo, and I think they're out of Canada, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but Snotty Nose Res Kids. Are you familiar with them, Pura Fé? You're familiar.
Kind of. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a hip hop duo.
Yeah.
And so I think I always enjoy anytime our native and indigenous musicians can break up or break into the hip hop scene and do well with content that talks about our tribal communities. So they're including a lot of native issues and topics and just ways of being in their songs, kind of like the show Reservation Dogs has done. But I think that Snotty Nose Res Kids are the equivalent to that for hip hop music. So I've been listening to them some, not too much, but they're on my radar, and I'm hoping I'll get a chance to open for them whenever they come in April. And just that collaboration that Pura Fé was talking about with different tribes and stuff. So hoping to make that connection there. But they're the first ones that come to mind.
I've been listening so much to Jacob Collier.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I love him so much. And yeah, I'm always listening. I'm always looking for something unusual and new and different. It doesn't matter whether it's indigenous or not. It's all indigenous to me. So but what's his name? Bear Thomas. With the whole
Where is he from?
Bear from the Tribe Called Red. That's Monique's son. Monique Mojica, that's her boy.
Yeah. Okay.
So but I mean, they've been out for quite a while now. But I really like what they did. And
Delbert Anderson.
Delbert, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
I'm I just received a fellowship last year to be a part of a program called Native Launchpad through Advancing Indigenous Performance. And I went to the Western Arts Alliance conference back in Portland and met the rest of the cohort for the first time. So that's how I was introduced to Delbert Anderson. He is Dene, I think.
Yeah.
New Mexico, and he's a trumpeter. But he is part of an ensemble called DDAT, and I'm not exactly sure. DDAT.
Yeah.
And they're
driving late night, the roads align into Orion's belt. Let's take my rhyme to a different space, time, and realm. Grind through any type of weather, strive to earn my stripes and feathers. Life and all the might and sever. Provide sight for the blind, insight for the divine. Right rhymes might right by my side of the drive until the night shine bright, living life forever. Until your goals reach for it, pay the toll, proceed for it. Train to get healthy for those who paved the road while we soaring.
of we had a jam session at the conference, and a few of the members were there, and they performed some of their material. It's pretty cool. It's just a fusion of jazz and poetry, and with topics pertinent to tribal communities. So I thought that was an interesting sound. And Pura Fé recently worked with Delbert too. I'd like to hear about that.
What are you currently working on, or what do you think? What are you hoping to be doing in the future?
Well, I've got to get some music out there. I have the full-length album and the EP with Dark Water Rising, but our last release was 2014, and we were getting ready to release another project with Backbone on it and some other songs. But I've dealt with some, you know, health issues over the past couple of years with my kidney disease, and I received my second transplant in April of 2020, and I lost my mother in 2017. So these past 7 years or so have been kind of tumultuous in a way, spiritually, physically, mentally. But my plan for the next 2 years, for sure, is to release a series of EPs. And I want to showcase, my goal is to showcase the versatility in my voice and sound. And so I'm planning to do like Charly goes Indigenous, Charly goes soul, Charly goes gospel, Charly goes country, in that way. So it's a series entitled Charly Goes. And that made me think about what you were saying a while ago, is you want to hear some stuff that's really stripped back. That thought crossed my mind, like, you know, because I've had a few people that are like, why don't you do this song with just you and the acoustic? And so I'm really thinking about the orchestration of some of these songs in my head, and it is going to have more of a stripped back acoustic approach to it. And I'm looking to, you know, I bought this keyboard. It's a MIDI keyboard probably 2 years ago, and I still haven't fooled around with it. And so I want to get into more production, producing beats on it and layering my own stuff. And, you know, Pura Fé is an aficionado of the looper and the loop pedal. Just using the different technologies that we have at our disposal. I want to do more of that as well.
I have been recording canoe songs, and I did start recording one like almost like rock piece, and with my guitars, but it's got all native drumming in it. It's wild. Wait till you hear it. I don't know what to tell you, but so I've got a couple of things on a back burner that I haven't completed, and I do want to put out another like good strong hand drum album with Charly and all the women and from home, like the several singers, and put out that album for those women that do those blanket dances. And that to me is very painful to watch. I don't like seeing them dancing to a Plains war dance drum. I want to see them dancing to some Eastern singing, because they're in the East, and I think they should have that behind them. So that's one album, then the canoe album, and then my funk album. And I really want Delbert to be a part of that. But anyhow, that's that.
Well, I just want to say thank you to both of you. It's been great to have this conversation, and we appreciate everything you do musically, and I really appreciate you coming here to talk to me today.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.